Bill, thank you for joining me.
Thank you for having me.
How have you been?
I've been great. Yeah, I've been great. The weather is getting much warmer where I stay, and so it's very exciting for me this time of the year.
That's good to hear because you're saying the weather is getting warmer, but you still have your jacket on.
You gotta be careful because sometimes it visits us sometimes when you don't expect it. So you have to be ready.
You always have to be ready. Most of the times, when you think about learning and when we think about education, it's the traditional type of education where we go to class and then we have a teacher who is facilitating our learning, right? But for you, you are thinking of education in terms of games, and obviously, most people like games, especially young kids. And I think that's a very good solution to an existing problem of young kids who don't want to learn or who are not interested in education.
No, I think at first when I started working on this idea of first of all, like if I can take a step back, the whole idea of making education, can I say, fun and engaging for children, came like almost like from a personal experience. Many of my friends get it wrong when they think I've always been hardworking in school, but it's not something like I did out of, oh, today let's wake up and go to school, like out of excitement. Part of it's because like I had parents who really, they kept on reminding me the, can I say, the importance of education. But I think most of the times I struggled in class, like I said, to pay attention, to keep focused. Some of the math was boring. Some of the social studies was very boring, the history. And so as I was growing up, and I think most of the time actually, the experience was mostly at A whereby, we're introduced to this concept of entrepreneurship. I started thinking back at my experience of going to primary school and thinking about, how can we make schools more engaging, more fun, and, spaces that children actually are excited every morning to show up and be themselves, but also learn, and they're not being pushed to go to school, but rather they're looking forward every day to come to school. And so for me it came down to this idea that, hey, children love to play, they love having fun, and one of the ways to do it is to get the math that could be boring, to put it into games, to get the social studies that could be boring, put it into games. And yeah, it's been what I've been up to. How do you make learning more fun and engaging for children?
How do you make learning more fun and engaging for children? But why games specifically? Why not any other solution?
That's interesting. Two things. One, as I was growing up, I loved hanging out with, say, my friends at school. But most of the times when we were hanging up when we were kids, it's not because we were having interesting conversation. It's because we were playing. We're either playing soccer, kicking the ball around, and that's how we interacted. That was almost like our language. And then the other one was, if we're not playing soccer, we're playing cards, spades. I don't know if you probably played those. And so it's either we're playing spades and we would argue, we would interact, we would negotiate points, and so that's how we interacted. So for me, it was like kids don't have like topics, talk about politics, talk about entrepreneurship. They talk about things as they are playing, negotiating this, oh, I'm right, oh, you're wrong, this and that. So that's how we interacted when we were kids. So again, going back, I was like, this is how kids interact. They engage with one another by playing, by jumping around, running around. And so to me, games seemed like it's a language that every child can understand. It's a conversation every child, when they're at school, they can engage in. So I think that's why I went to games. That's number one. It's a language I think every child can understand and they can resonate with. And number two, it's I've been thinking. I thought that it would be a solution that is, can I say, sustainable. And up to now, I still believe that how we are approaching the problem of education access and making learning fun and engaging is a sustainable way right now to solve the problem in my community. And why I say that, I'm looking at financing the program. I'm looking at loading the program into the communities. You've got to be careful with the solution you come up with. Sometimes you come up with a solution and then it doesn't fit the community. And I'm still learning. But besides being a language that children understand and can resonate with, I think it's a solution that could easily be sustainable within the communities that we serve, both financially and then also loading the program within the communities. So that's why. Those are the two reasons, I guess.
I think it's so fascinating to think about it because you had to go back to being a child, think like a child, remember when you're a child to
Every
come up
day,
with a solution
every
for
day.
for children.
Yeah. And the other thing is, One of the things that I enjoy is spending actual time with children. I guess one of the things that I don't give credit is when I go to classroom, how much children teach me. Like for example, I don't think many people know, but when I was in college, I spent a lot of time in elementary schools around Madison. I went to the University of Wisconsin-Madison, and I worked with the African Studies Department, whereby elementary schools would bring in students to these, they're like primary schools, I guess, back home. So I spent a lot of time interacting with children from a different community. Part of it because I wouldn't necessarily get access to children in my community. But I spend a lot of time with children, and it's very interesting to see how much you can learn from them. And actually, every time I get the chance to go to Uganda, I go to classrooms and sort of become a child again, but also see how they interacted. And it brings a lot of memories when I was going to school. And so I think it sort of has helped when we are, I guess, designing this program and solution. It's like it takes you back to when you were a kid, but also it shows you like some of the things that they care about. And I think it's very important that when you're designing, especially for me, when I'm thinking about this solution and my team, to make sure that we really think about that, or at least care about that aspect of being a child and who they are and stuff like that.
Yeah, I think it's always interesting and fascinating being around a company of children because they make us believe that anything and everything is possible, really. And these are some of the values that we lose when you grow up.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, part of it is like when you face reality, it sort of humbles you. But I think it's beautiful, like being able to be around them and see how, to them, it's possibilities are, you know, everything is possible. Anything is limitless, if I can put it like that.
So, as an entrepreneur, how was your process of developing the solution, or rather, developing the game for children? How was it like?
Honestly, it was fun. And why I say that, overall, I think the process of going through that was fun. But at some point, I think it's because I didn't know what I was against or what I was coming against. Um, so, for example, I would say that if you showed me the journey I was going to go on to, I probably would have been scared. But I think being able to take it step by step, like some of the challenges we faced, I feel like because I didn't know they were coming, I was okay and stuff like that. It's like, oh, step by step, let's keep going, let's keep going. Another thing I say it was fun, I think for me, it's the communities that we are serving, some of them are really connected to me, if I would say. Like right now, the main refugee camp that we are making the games available to is where I grew up from. So I think I've always had that connection of feeling like, say, if we can help one or two children be able to access education, it's almost like, can I say helping myself? Like I see myself into the shoes of some of these children, you know. So if I would say that the journey has been like, even when like I face challenges that I had to overcome, it's like you can't give up on these children. Like you could be in their shoes, like, you know, years back you're actually in their shoes. So for me it's been fun in the sense that, one, I didn't know what I was against, but I feel like every step has been worth it, because again, like once in like at one time I was in the shoes of these children, you know. So there is some of them who I think years from now they'll have grown up, and if we can help them get an education, I think that would be really worth the fight, I guess.
So, since the beginning of a conversation, we have been speaking a lot about education.
Right.
What does education mean to you, and what should be the goal of education?
What does education mean to me? Very good question. Very good, and it's a very important question. I would say when I was growing up, to me, being able to get 90% to 100 meant a lot. I was learning. But I think as I went to high school and then I went to university, I've come to realize like being able to um, give people an education or space whereby they come to know who they are, they get to know their passions, they get to know their strength, and then how to use that to continue to grow, but also like to make the space that they are within a better place. I'm talking about if you can make your life better, if you can help your family, if you can help your community. I think that's the purpose of education. So how do you help people discover who they are, know their passions, know their strength, and then how to use that to make, I don't want to use the world a better place, but that's what I'm going to. Yeah, so being able to just help people know who they are, know their passions, and then how to use that to make their surrounding a better place. I think that's the purpose of education.
And I completely agree with you because I
Right.
believe that education should be able to empower people and give them the ability to think and decide for themselves, despite all the
Exactly.
influences that they may have around them.
Yeah. So you put it a better way, whereby it's about empowering you. And I think when you talk about empowerment, you can't be empowered if you don't know who you are. You can't be empowered if you don't know your passions. You can't be empowered if you don't know your strength. And I think if you know those things, you're truly empowered. If you know those things, you can help other people know who they are, discover their passions, discover their strength. So yeah, you put it in the best way. Empowerment is what we're talking about here.
That's really nice. And what are some of the topics that you have been focusing on?
I know we didn't sort of break down the game and also explain, I guess, to the audience what the game is all about. So, besides making learning fun and engaging for children, one of the things that we wanted to focus on was to make sure that children are still getting, they are still progressing in their subjects as they play the game. With that, we were able to build a game wholly focused on the Ugandan educational curriculum. And then in the Ugandan education curriculum, we are focusing on 4 classes: primary 4, primary 5, primary 6, and then primary 7. And then within these classes, we are focusing on 4 subjects. There's mathematics, there's English, there's science, and then social studies. So if you think about it, there are 4 games for one class, but then you have 4 classes. So that's 4 times 4, that's 16, which is a lot, by the way. And the other thing that I guess I feel like people don't understand, I don't work by myself. Like right now, I have a team of 4 people who we work with at my home STAZ. We have a team of 16 teachers who have helped with all the content that we come up with. Like if you ask me primary 4 or 5, like social studies, I don't know how the content is arranged, but these teachers are the ones that help us sort of figure out how to arrange all this content and bring the games to life. So if you think about it, my role and my team has mostly been how do we get this content that teachers have developed and then put it in a game format. Otherwise, yeah, that's how we're able to navigate all these like subjects and then bring it into a game, if that makes sense. So 16 games, but then they're all like under one game, if that makes sense.
And I appreciate that you are giving credit to your team members.
Oh, absolutely.
It means you're recognizing the work that they're putting in. I can only imagine now the amount of impact that you are making because it seems like you're working with the marginalized groups and you're focusing on education and you're literally focusing on how do we ensure that kids love education and they're also learning it in a fun and engaging way.
I mean, the other thing that I think this was also like once I came to ALA, you realize that there are other skills that even before, like during the interviews for ALA, one of the things that they had us doing was like working in groups, communicating, like the marshmallow challenge. You know, those are some of the things that I realized that they were very important, like teamwork skills, communication skills, and those are some of the things that my team and I keep talking about. It's like, guys, we understand that getting like distinctions for these children is very important, but at the same time, these children need to grow into citizens who can communicate for themselves, be able to recognize opportunities and go for them in a bold way, be people who can like hold conversations, and we shouldn't wait for them to reach in secondary school to do that. These are skills that we need to help them develop when they're still in primary school, when they sort of still have that fire of engagement and being able to, like, children
The
when they're
spark
young.
of curiosity.
Exactly. There we go. Exactly. They are still young. They can be molded into, these amazing human beings. When they use their sort of I don't want to call it sense of innocence, but like that curiosity phase whereby they are not scared to do anything, to jump on anything. When they lose that, it's very hard to like help them like regain it back. So I think when they are still young, to help them learn these simple skills, working together in teams, hold conversations, I think it's very important when they are still young. And I think that's one of the things we're trying to do with my home stars and these games.
what has your impact been in terms of the schools and the students that you have been inspiring to become passionate about learning and learn in a fun way?
Right. I can go the whole explaining to you. Number one, I think it's been like the excitement, and I don't know how you measure that, but you can see the excitement of children when these games show up, or when how excited they are to ask for the games, not necessarily for textbooks from the library. That's another story I could share with you. I was always excited to, like, when the bell for breakfast rang or lunch, and then I would jump outside to play with my friends. Compared to like the time to go in the library and pick a textbook, to me that was very boring. Yet I was very excited to go and play, and we've sort of seen that within the children as well. Many children will spend a lot of time like playing on these games, and when time to because we have like also like timetables for these children, and you can see the excitement of these children when it gets time to play the games. And I would assume that you'd see a different reaction if on the timetable it was the time to go in the library and pick textbooks. So I think one of the impact has been the excitement, seeing children excited to learn once again. The other one has been um, the improvement in results. As much as I'm not, I guess my team and I are not necessarily shooting for that as the main objective, I would say, there has been great improvement in the results. For example, the primary school I went to, which is it's called Kinaketaka Primary School. It's actually the first primary school the first prototypes I made. It's where I piloted the games. For many years, like even when I was going to the primary school, like during my year, I'm the only one who got a distinction. And even like years after I had left, I finished in 2010, and I think up to like 2017, 2018, they consistently got one first grade, two first grades, and within these past years, like 2020 up to last year, like last year they got 13 first grades, so there has been like this improvement in also like exactly in grades, and also like, for example, last year we were not able to cover all the primary school in the refugee camp, and we can see a difference in the schools that we are not able to provide the games with and the schools that we were able to provide the game with. Last year there's one school, it's called Nguruwe Primary School. We gave them the games for the first time. This school in its history, they have never gotten like a distinction in English. Their patron from the patron who we work with from that school is an English teacher. He spent a lot of time giving the games to children, but of course they've been playing a lot of his subject. Last year they got a distinction for the first time. I don't want to entirely credit to the game, but I think there's something here when the patron we've been working with, his class gets the distinction for the first time. And I think my team and I are excited to see how the next few years are going to play out. For example, are we able to, can I stay consistently produce these results? Sometimes the time tells what is really going on. But I think from the face of things, there has been an impact of children being excited about school, and also like children actually improving in the results that they produce. Leave alone teachers actually realizing that this is a resource for them to be able to use in classrooms. So yeah.
Your solution solves three things to me. The first one is inspiring young kids to learn, educating them, and finally helping them become good communicators and learn how to build relationships because they interact with other kids when they're playing. And that's massive, and I think you should feel really proud of the work that you're doing and even the impact that it's creating, given the few that you have highlighted to us. And I really appreciate your story. I love the work that you're doing, and I hope by the end of this, people would be inspired to also look at the problems and go back and hold the hands of those who share the similar experiences that they once shared. Joel, thank you so much. And this has been quite an interesting conversation. And I love the work that you're doing. And I'm looking forward to the next few years to see the massive impact that you're going to be creating.
Thank you so much, and I really appreciate you having me on this show. It really means a lot. Thank you.
Thank you too.